Alright, how's it? I'm gonna these things come in handy for this. I don't really like any other way. Hold them down by the foot. These are kind of small Tahitian chestnut, so with these bigger ones I'm probably gonna have to come in sideways. I roll them right back onto the blade. You got to be kind of careful about that. Cut and a pop. Cut and a pop. And then, now in this case, that nut meat's going to jump right out. And I'm throwing them into the water bowl because these will start to oxidize really fast. Like, you know, and it's just appearance, it's just oxidization, but they do oxidize pretty quick. And then really, this here is kind of like an almond skin that can be peeled off. And if you watch any documentaries on cut nut down in Tahiti, they tend to be getting that skin off also. So, once again, roll them back on. Try not to touch yourself. Pop. There we go. Into the water. Into the water. Now, in a lot of cases, like I got these real fresh ones here, you know, nice and dry. They'll end up starting to look more like this, you know, although this one even kind of molded a little bit. You know, they'll brown out. And on a lot of documentaries I've also seen that they're actually letting these things dry quite a bit, and I think they'll release more on the inside, and then you're not fighting the fruit on the outside of the peel, because let's see, there can be a kind of a high fiber fruit, and it becomes a pain in the ass if you're trying to chop, because it just wants to skip out from you, right? It wants to go into that fruit that's so fibrous, and it wants to chase to one side or the other and not down through the nut. Although watching them do it on some of the documentaries, they look a little easier, and I think it's because the nut's drier. So we'll try one of these big ones. And I'm definitely not going to be able to get this inside the regular way, so I'm going to go lengthwise. Look at how much meat is in there. That's such a nice, there's so much. I mean, like, you know, from the two different sizes, even the small one, right, has so much nut meat in it. I mean, we're talking like, what, 4, 5, 6 almonds worth of nut meat from the smallest of these chestnuts. Yeah, it's at least 5, 6 almonds worth of nut meal. And so this guy, now I'm gonna go this way. And now we're gonna be able to pop that out. I don't even need the knife. Yeah, that pops right out. A lot of nut meal. I'll try one more. There we go. So anyway, you can even see the starch is starting to release already just from the cuts. But this definitely keeps them from oxidizing. If you do them just dry, they're going to oxidize and get really brown really fast. But, and they smell like fruit. Really trippy. So I'm going to go ahead and go inside and put these things in the grater, and we're going to wash them and get the starch out. Alright, so I'm using an old antiquated hand grinder. As you might know, we prefer off the grid around here, and I highly suggest anybody out there, even if you're living on the grid, start getting all your manual food processing tools while you still can, because there could be a point here where they're hard to get if everybody wants them all of a sudden. So, let's get my grind on. Get all of this nice and beat up. When I first read about these, everything on the internet kept saying that they used Tahitian chestnut to make pudding. And so, of course, you know, I went and boiled some seeds up, thinking it was going to turn into a pudding, and it was the furthest thing from any kind of pudding. Very rubbery, very hard, crunchy, chewy. And so anyway, I just kind of thought, well, what the hell are they talking about pudding? They're out of their minds, right? No pudding here. Well, just like so many things, the pudding is actually in the starch. So we're going to grind all this up, put it into a straining bag, and do a good wash on it and pull all that water off. Let it settle like a regular, like ground cassava. Pretty much the same thing you'd do with cassava, minus the fermentation. Yeah, check out how fast that oxidizes out of the water. It's like pink already. Alright, so I transferred that to, you know, a bowl or the regular sprouting bag. Just enough water to bring it up. Look at that, turned pink with the oxidization. I don't know what does it, but mix it around a bit. And then we're simply going to, strain all that out. And I'm probably going to do 2 washes on this, although in the past, when I did 2 washes, the second wash didn't have nearly as much. This first wash is going to be 90% of the starch. And then this crumble in here is really good food too, so we'll get around to processing that in a minute here. Alright, now I'm going to take this and do 1 more wash on it. Alright, so I got a second wash now. That's the trick right there. I think that's pretty starchy. Look at all that milkiness. That's usually starch. Alrighty. Alright, so we'll see when these settle how much we have in each one. Alright, so I'm going to cook up the kind. Let's see. Get this bugger lit up. I pretty much just brown this stuff up. A little bit of coconut oil. Should be a little bit, yeah. Throw some salt in. Probably one of the best ingredients in this, salt. Nice on black pepper. Homegrown black pepper at that. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just fry this nut meal up to get a nice toast on it. And it's going to get a little sticky at first as the starch that's left starts to settle. But then it's going to break apart back into a crumble again. I really think this stuff would be good for veggie burgers or meatballs or something like that. But that's for a later video. Alright, starting to steam a little, starting to toast a little bit. You see it gets a little clumpy at first. Then it's going to kind of lose that clumpiness a bit as some of that moisture disappears and cooks that starch and cooks the nut meal through. And see, practically all that pink disappeared, kind of going back to white and brown. And a lot of that pink, you know, stayed right there in the water. Whatever that is, whatever oxidizes in there. There we go. Yeah, so we just keep doing this for a bit. Alright. That's starting to look like how I like. Not steaming much anymore. And it's getting a little crispy. Getting nice and crispy. Oh yeah, well, that's it. So then I stop about here. Alright, so this is that first, or this is the second extraction. I'll pour it over my plants here. Yeah, and see, they're just not nearly as much. Kind of a thin cake, maybe an 1/8 inch thick. I'll let the rest of that water settle out since I disturbed it. But this one, I think we'll see a significant difference. And I only waited a couple hours, you know. I would say in most cases wait overnight. You're going to get the best settling. And look at that starch that gets, God, it looks like paint. Oh my God. Very paint-like. Okay, I'm going to stop there because there's still a bit of starch to sit. You see, there's your cake. That is a pretty substantial starch cake. Like, let's see. Oh, yeah, oobleck. Right? That is your oobleck right there. So, oh yeah. Wonderful starch. So that's what you're going to make your pudding from, the starch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this water settle a little bit more, pour off the last of this, and then I'll make some coconut oil, or I mean milk. I'll make some coconut milk, add a little sugar, and we'll see if we can't make some haupia from this. Got our coconut milk. Oh, unreal. Let's get that thing lit up. I'm going to go ahead and cheat and just use regular cane sugar today. A couple of big fat tablespoons. Call that a tablespoon? Much bigger. And then here's our starch. I didn't get all the water out because I'm rushing, so it's still a little pink. So just make sure you break up all your oobleck and get it all stirred in. Otherwise you're going to be making noodle. And it gets hard down there. I mean, I'm scraping this thing. Hurry it up a little bit already. some loose starch. And of course, get it in while it's nice and cold. Always introduce your slurry cold. And now the big trick is just keep stirring. Otherwise that's going to set on the bottom and become a mess and probably burn even. And I'll bet you this is going to start setting real fast. And once the heat starts getting through to the inside of the pan, you'll feel it start sticking on the bottom. And plus you got to keep stirring too. Otherwise that starch is just going to settle to the bottom and become a cake, just like they broke up. And that's not going to be any fun. It'll just burn to the bottom, screw the whole process up. Alright, that's not taking too long. It's already starting to thicken. And now you really got to be on top of it. If anything, drop your flame a little bit. And most of all, keep stirring and keep getting all the bottom of the pan. You don't want it sticking anywhere. Oh yeah. Okay, now it's really starting to come together. Getting thick. Getting real thick. And remember, this is going to harden up as it cools too. So even if you get it real thick when it's hot, it's going to get even thicker as it cools down. And the idea would be, I believe, to get it to a point where you could get it to stand up, like you could cut blocks out like Jello jigglers, right? You go from the Jello jigglers, Tahitian chestnut jigglers. In Hawaii, they would call something like this haupia, but they would have done it with arrowroot starch, the Hawaiian arrowroot, coconut, and then probably squeezed sugarcane juice. Although I never figured out how the Hawaiians squeeze their sugarcane. I've never seen any device or anything about it. Alright, look at that, we're starting to get bubbles. You better watch those bubbles too, because if they throw that shit on your hand, it's going to burn like molten lava. But you do want to get into some bubbles to make sure all that starch sets. Like the boil phase is very important for getting all the last starches to set. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's coming together real good. And some starches, if you cook them too long, will actually go from being thick to starting to break down and get watery. And some starches only stay thick for a little while, like a day or so, and then they'll even start to kind of water out or release their water. But I believe this stuff will stay pretty thick. Oh, look at that. Now we're really starting to get into a pudding. Pop this bugger off. Oh yeah. I'm just about to end that because I think any more will be unnecessary. We're into a pretty full boil now. Yeah, see, that's probably about good right there. You see we're getting full boil all the way through. Go back for maybe 30 seconds to a minute, keeping it from burning on the bottom. And then you should be pretty guaranteed that you're not going to feel any of those gritty starch grains left over in there. Oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop that in here. Oh, I'm going to fill it right to the top. Yeah, look at that in there. There we go. Tahitian chestnut pudding. Just like they talk about online. This is the real deal. We'll come back to this thing when it cools down entirely, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to cut whole chunks out of this and lift them out. Alright, so this is about a 12-year-old Tahitian chestnut, and you can see the nuts are littered all over the ground here. So this is one of my favorite things about fruits like this. They drop when they're ready. And this is kind of these are kind of smaller ones on average from this tree. See, not very big, kind of like those first ones I broke into. But they're everywhere. They're just like little Easter eggs, right? It's almost like how passion fruit do. You get around them and they're just all over the place. And then even these old brown ones here tend to still have good nut meat on the inside. In fact, when you look at a lot of the Tahitians using them, they'll actually wait till they get this brown before they get the nut meat out. And so you can see them up in the tree. They just kind of come out of wherever the flowers emerged, usually sometimes in doubles or triples. Yeah, like right there. A little triple group. But once again, drop when they're ready. That way you don't have to worry about getting up into that canopy or nothing. Alright, now this chestnut here, also I believe it's just maybe 12 years old. I'll give you an idea. There's my backpack. Yeah, it's the chestnut. But you know, and these are kind of small ones here. Once again, it's an Easter egg hunt. You just find them laying wherever. But this one's been making some, oh, look at these guys, like freaking hamburger size. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Look at the size of that. It's the size of my palm. You know, some are kind of small, but the big ones, I mean, hello. And once again, best part is they drop when they're ready. Look at these big, beautiful things. Whoa. Da, 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 da. Big old hamburgers. You see they're all over in here, right? Oh my God, look at the size of that thing. Oh, this is cool. Yeah. So this is how I do. I mean, of course, if you had a bag, you'd bag them up. I'm going to come back and grab these in a little bit. Can't do another shit right now. Whoa, look at that guy. Ooh. Freaking unreal. I see the rats got into that one. Yeah. So, great comparison for that other tree. You know, that other tree was producing maybe max size about this, and this guy about that, right? And pretty consistently too, compared to the little guy in size. So look at that. I mean, you just saw, after making what I made, maybe did half of those, and I got all that nut meal, I got all that pudding. Look at that. Like an Easter egg hunt. Look at that pile. Easy food, right? Easy food. Look, these buggers just laying all over. Beautiful. Beautiful tree. Really cool tree. Alright, I'll show you the ones I've got in front of my place. They're only a couple years old. Yeah, so this here is my Tahitian chestnuts that are that's only a couple years old. This one's a little small. It's still only 3 feet tall. This one I had in a pot just for maybe a year before I got here, and is looking really good. This thing's going to get super dominant. And then, yeah, this guy here is also just a couple years old. See? And we're about maybe, that's shoulder height for me, so 4.5 feet. This one's definitely 6 feet. Yeah, I'm loving it. All right. So we had a nice cool night. We did dip into the pudding. I broke the mold a little bit, but it set up, I believe it set up pretty good. So, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Look at that. Jello jiggler. Huh? Look at that bugger right there. Whoa, you could make halpia with this. This is halpia, no problem. You can cut that slab off for the picnic, or you know, your holidays or whatever. Just snacking for the kids. Pudding. Look at that stand up. That is pudding. I'm gonna do this again and try it with chocolate. I think chocolate in this is just gonna be mental. Oh, look at that. Tahitian chestnut, halpia. Just chestnut starch, coconut milk, and sugar. That's it. I didn't even put no vanilla or anything. Unreal.